Hi, everybody, and welcome to another edition of the Southern Fried Podcast, a production of the Arkansas Democrat Gazette. I'm Rex Nelson, senior editor of the Democrat Gazette, and we're probably going to make you hungry in the next 30 minutes or so, because I've got those who know me know I'm a foodie among many other things, and one of the great things about living in Little Rock and in Arkansas is our wonderful food culture here in the state. I mean, we've got restaurant people in the state that are second to none. I try to write about them as much as I can. I'm proud to be on the selection committee for the Arkansas Food Hall of Fame. So we're going to go foodie on this episode. And boy, one of the best. I'm talking about the great restaurateurs we have around Arkansas. One of the best is Ben Brainard, who is joining us today. Ben, welcome to the Southern Fried Podcast.
Thank you for having me, Rex. It's an honor to be here.
You know, I recently wrote a Sunday column. Ben opened Big Bad Breakfast out in West Little Rock in the past year and has already announced plans to come downtown just around the corner from where we're recording this in the Arkansas Democrat Gazette building here at Capitol and Scott. So I'm not sure that's going to be good for my waistline, but boy, it's sure going to be good for breakfast meetings and lunch meetings once you get up and running. But I wrote a column, and we headlined it Big Bad Downtown, because I think that to bring such a notable brand downtown is a vote of confidence in downtown Little Rock. It shows there's a lot going on. There's still a real future, and I'll get into that a little later in the podcast. But Ben, I thought I'd introduce you, and I know a lot of our listeners already know you for your many years in the market, but talk a little bit about your background, if you would, where you were raised, and how you ended up getting in this crazy food business that you're in.
Well, thank you for the questions, and thank you for the invitation. So I'm a Little Rock boy, born and raised. I graduated from Central in 95. Yep, Little Rock Central Tiger. I was actually editor of the newspaper.
Okay.
I learned that was not my calling shortly into college, but I have a great deal of respect for what you do. And to your earlier point on the article that you wrote regarding Big Bad Downtown, that was an incredibly insightful take on it, and one I appreciate your words, and that was really, really, really well put together. Anyways,
thank you.
I'm a Little Rock boy. My mom is from Louisiana. My daddy was from Pine Bluff, and we landed here. They moved here in 75. I was born in 76 up in the Heights. Went Central, and then went to Lyon College
Right.
In Batesville.
And you now serve on the Board of Trustees of Lyon College.
I am. I am very proud to continue to support Lyon and our mission, and during a pretty trying time with COVID for all businesses, you know, we had to get creative in the restaurant business. We certainly had to get creative in higher ed as well.
Absolutely, and again, I'll get into it later in the podcast, but you're wearing several hats because Lyon College is going to play a big role in the resurgence of downtown Little Rock also. But back to your background.
Yes, that's right. So I studied economics, and those who know me best still chuckle about it. I mean, I'm not that. That's just not who I am. And I grew up wanting to cook. And on Thanksgiving down in Pine Bluff at my grandmother's house, it was one of those things where everybody would be crowded around the TV watching football, and I would genuinely be in the kitchen watching her cook. It was something but that was before Food Network and before a lot of the kind of romanticism of the culinary world was, and I just was like, you don't do that. You don't cook. That's not what you do. So I went into real estate after college, and I was good at it. I know Little Rock. I've been here my whole life. Right. It was a market that I understood, but I was not fulfilled at all.
Yeah, not really something you jumped out of bed just really gung-ho about every morning.
No, and I still paid close attention to food and to cooking, and when Scott McGee opened Boulevard Bread Company in 2000, well, 99 is actually, I turned to my girlfriend at the time, now wife, and said, that guy's done something different. That is different, and that is going to be a big thing. And I told her that I was strongly considering taking a 300% pay cut and going to ask him for a job.
Wow.
And I did. So in 2001, I went and started as a prep cook at Boulevard and worked my way up to sous chef. And he and I started, and John Beachboard, started thinking about things that we wanted in Little Rock. We're all Little Rock boys, and we were like,
this town needs this. It needs this.
So we're like, hell, let's make it. I mean,
and Yellow Rocket was born then, the name of the restaurant holding company.
Yeah, absolutely. And so our, the trajectory was really what we wanted to eat, not what we wanted necessarily to make or to cook. We were like, we want to go to that place, so let's just build it so it's not here.
Well, you were thinking like a customer, which I think is brilliant. Yeah. I mean, like you said, you knew Little Rock people. You knew the market.
Right. We had a slew of really, really good restaurants, but they were all kind of white tablecloth, pretty elevated dining.
The Jacques and Suzanne syndrome,
correct.
A lot of them had spun out of that. But they were fine dining places.
But even at that time, you had like Spallet. And those were kind of that was kind of the cutting edge place in the Heights. And Ashley's was in full gear at that point.
At the Capitol Hotel, right.
And so we knew that we wanted something that a whole family could go to and did not break the bank. And we knew that if we could figure out a way to bring people in more than once a week, we might be onto something. And so keeping your price point marginal, but keeping your steps of service high and your quality of ingredients, your quality of food high, and to this day, Yellow Rocket still performs at the very highest level.
Absolutely,
every regard.
Absolutely, and is now taking even the Northwest Arkansas market by storm.
Yeah, those guys crush. They're just as good as anybody in the game.
All right, so let's pull away your years there and kind of take us up to where you are now. Big Bad Breakfast starts over in Oxford, Mississippi. Famous chef over there, John Currents. Talk about how you developed this partnership and how we came to have a BBB here in Little Rock.
So I've known Tommy Keat with JTJ, the JTJ group, for a long time. He's a close friend of mine. And he and I kind of romantically discussed working together for a long time. And it was just never kind of the right time, and I was always super happy with Yellow Rocket. So it wasn't that I was trying to vet other opportunities. It was just one of those things. We'd have some wine and talk about. Maybe we should do something
one of these days. Yeah, right. One of these days.
When I left Yellow Rocket at the beginning of COVID, I intended to stay home for a little bit with my family, which I'd never done, and my wife wasn't working at the time. I wasn't working and our kids weren't in school. I was like, we're going to travel.
Yeah.
And spend some time in the middle of our life that really I never imagined being able to do. Well, we did that and it was great, but I needed to get back to work.
Yeah.
So
understood.
And the plan was always that I was going to open a small bistro and kind of make the food that I wanted to make and serve the wine that I wanted to serve and kind of just put my little signature on my hometown, and that was to go sail off in the sunset. That was the plan, and I got into a real estate negotiation for a spot in the Heights that I learned pretty early on that I was never going to compete with, but I put a lot of energy into that and was pretty deflated when it came to reality that it was not going to occur.
Yeah.
And Tommy Keat.
I can almost guess what that spot is, but I won't press you.
And so Tommy and I had dinner, and he said, "May I introduce you to an associate of mine named Michael Bodner?" Michael Bodner is the head of Fresh Hospitality out of Nashville,
Tennessee. Yes,
correct. They run Tzatziki's, they run Big Bad Breakfast, they run a host of other places, and all at very high level. And I told Tommy that that's not really what I do. And while I have a tremendous amount of appreciation and respect for it, I just kind of thought that I just needed to be in a spot preparing my food and doing what I knew to do and kind of be the motor and the steering wheel, if you will. But over time, I was talking to my wife, and I was like, there's no breakfast in this town.
Mm-hmm.
Let me rephrase that. There's no breakfast in West Little Rock.
Right.
And I love At the Corner. I do fantastic work, but it's a small restaurant.
It is small, and you often have to wait there.
Yeah, exactly right. And so I kind of saw an opportunity in the market there, and I was introduced to Michael Bodner, who shows up with the James Beard award-winning chef John Currents, who he and I knew each other peripherally from No Kid Hungry, which is a charity that we're both involved in. We did some events together. And I was like, so this dude just rolls around with James Beard chefs, and it's a big flex. But and we had a great conversation again. And I looked at him. He actually approached me about Mexican food. He said that I own some restaurants, and I'm really looking for a Mexican concept.
Yeah.
And Tommy tells me that you're the guy that can perhaps provide that. And I told him, I said, Mr. Bodner, I thank you, but I've really checked that box in my life. And I had. That was just not something that I really needed to pursue any further. So he said, well, John Currents is right here. I mean, we could talk about something else. I said, yeah, we could talk about Big Bad Breakfast, I guess. And I went down to Birmingham, Alabama, which is where the base is for Big Bad. And I spent a little time just checking it out and learning the ropes, and I like it. I liked it real well. I loved the hours. That was the big thing, is getting out of those nights and trading in nights in bars for mornings and coffee.
And I was going to ask you some of the differences between a breakfast restaurant as opposed to a dinner restaurant. That's obviously a major one.
They are diametrically opposed. They are as far from operating a breakfast restaurant is completely different than operating a night restaurant, because at Local Lime, for instance, it was all about getting people in, serve them 2.1 margaritas, and that would afford us the opportunity to buy great ingredients, make great food. And the margins on the food we probably took a bath on some things because we bought the right stuff.
Yeah.
And we put food out that we were really proud of. And then the margins from alcohol sales would kind of rob Peter to pay Paul.
To do that. Yeah.
Exactly right.
Yeah.
Well, that
makes sense.
That's not the same game in breakfast. In breakfast, it's much more about turning tables, making sure that people have come in, get them served quickly, ring them up, and let them leave,
and open that table up for a new customer.
But that's also what people typically want, especially Monday through Friday.
They do. They're ready to get on to work. They're not
trying to wait 15 minutes for an entree, which brings up another point. You have no time. You can't mess with people's work schedule.
Yeah.
And because that is the guaranteed way that they will never return. And
if you make them late one
exactly
morning.
Right.
Yeah.
So we have an 8-minute timer on a ticket. And if that 8-minute timer goes, I am then on the line and I am yelling. Because I'm not going to be late to work.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to be the reason that someone is late to work.
Yeah.
So that, amongst many others, it is quite different. It's quite different.
And yet, again, you specialize. You were talking about Yellow Rocket, getting them in, getting good quality food. You've still got the quality. I mean,
it is short order. Fine dining.
I've had some dishes, that you can't get anywhere else in Arkansas on a weekday morning, certainly, maybe at a Sunday brunch in places, but not on a weekday morning except at your place.
Everything that you eat at Big Bad Breakfast was prepared that morning.
Yeah.
Everything, including the jelly. Occasionally those will go to the next day, but we make such small batches that it is an incredibly scrutinized process. If you go into my walk-in at any time, there is never more than 2 quarts of sauce. It is all made starting at 5 a.m. in the morning.
Yeah.
And we open the doors at 7.
We'll be back with more of the Southern Fried Podcast, but first, this break. Hi, Rex Nelson here. Thanks for listening so far. A lot of the topics we cover here on the Southern Fried Podcast and many more can be found on the pages of the Democrat Gazette. If you'd like to support this great newspaper's commitment to bringing you the latest in Arkansas news, sports, and entertainment, consider subscribing to the Democrat Gazette today. With your subscription, you'll get a digital edition of the newspaper every morning, along with the latest news and updates delivered to you on an iPad provided at no extra cost. You'll also get the same award-winning journalism you've come to expect from the Democrat Gazette, including my 3 weekly columns, plus exclusive photo galleries, videos, articles, and digital extras, all in the palm of your hand. As a bonus, we're offering a limited time deal to our podcast listeners. To take advantage of this exclusive offer, click the link in the description or go to arkansasonline.com/podcast23. Welcome back to the Southern Fried Podcast, a production of the Arkansas Democrat-Gazette. All right, so, you're really just getting off the ground in West Little Rock. Tremendous success from all I can tell. The crowds, the times I've been there, and I've been there multiple times, tremendous success. But already make the decision to come downtown with a second Little Rock location. How did that decision come about?
Well, it was kind of dumb in terms of timing. I still have a lot of things I need to accomplish at Bowman, and will.
And will, yeah.
I really, really like that space. Like, one of these days, I'll bring you over there and I'll show you the plans of Bowman against the plans of Soulfish.
Yeah, and this is the former Soulfish location on Main Street downtown, which, again, was a restaurant I liked a lot.
I never went to this one. I went to the one in Memphis.
In Memphis,
that's
the original,
correct.
Yeah.
But when I walked it, I was like, oh, my God. Because John Currents and I toiled over the kitchen layout of Bowman because we were turning a bank into a restaurant.
Right.
Which in and of itself is a really challenging choice. What happened was I was able to take the plans from Bowman, and I'm not kidding. I turned them 90 degrees.
Huh.
And they fit perfectly into the Vent-A-Hood. The walk-in is in the perfect spot. I'm having to knock out 2 walls. There's a giant crawl space underneath it. So I'm not trenching for all my plumbing.
Wow.
It is so much easier of a project that I was kind of remiss not to do it.
Mm-hmm.
The decision was made because I looked at, with interest rates where they are and with inflation going haywire, there's a lot of scared money out there.
Yeah.
And I have some scared money.
Understood.
And so it really came down to a financial decision that we could genuinely open this restaurant for a third of what we spent on Bowman in the middle of kind of a captive audience that really... at the corners don't even know we're open.
Yeah.
We won't be a blip on their radar because I think there's so many people down here who want breakfast.
Yeah, I agree.
So that's how we landed there.
One reason I did the column, though, is, as you know, I'm a huge advocate for downtown Little Rock. I think any great city has to have a great downtown.
Totally
that's your
agree.
heart.
Absolutely.
That's your soul. If you're rotting on the inside, the rot's going to spread to the outside.
Could not agree more.
So Little Rock's got to have a great downtown to be a great city. That was a real vote of confidence on your part, though, in the future of downtown Little Rock.
Well, I had a little inside information too. That to your earlier point.
Yeah.
I don't know if you're ready to go down that rabbit hole.
Let's do Lyon College.
Yeah.
And we had Dr. Tavener as our previous guest, actually, on this podcast.
She's a tremendous human being.
Yeah.
We are so lucky to have her.
What a vision. This little liberal arts school in Batesville, Arkansas, does something that the University of Arkansas has never done, and that is move forward with both a dental school and a veterinary school, neither of which Arkansas has. They partner with the private sector who buys the Heifer International headquarters. Heifer will still be headquartered there, lease space in the building, but
Correct.
Take that Heifer campus, and that's going to be 2 new schools. And Ben, you know more about this than I do, being on the board. But I'm told
it's better that you say as much as you can because I am a little privileged on it.
I understand, but I'm told once both schools are up and fully operating, we're a few years away from that, but fully operating, they've got every class in between students, faculty, and staff. That's going to be almost 1,000 additional people coming to downtown Little Rock every day.
Every day.
That is the equivalent, Ben, of a major corporate relocation.
So now, after COVID, the convention center is operating at full swing again.
Right.
We open a school that brings in 1,000 people every Monday through Friday.
Yeah. Professional people, yeah.
We are creating over 160 jobs, and we are filling a huge hole in the state in terms of education.
Right.
It is not without its challenges, as a project of this size obviously is going to be. I am supremely confident, and I was so confident that I decided to open another restaurant too early because I believe in it so much.
Yeah.
And to the big point of your article, I believe in downtown, and the Keats and we said we're gonna do some stuff downtown.
Yeah.
And I hope more young people, not just in the restaurant business, but downtown Little Rock needs to be a resurgence. Chris Tanner has had tremendous success at Samantha's.
Absolutely has.
There is so much here, and it's a captive audience. And now with these hotels coming up, and if I can get the parking under control, it might be a little better. But
there you go.
But you can't put the cart before the horse. There needs to be a reason to do that. And I'm hoping that all of this is pushing that direction, in line with what you're hoping.
Absolutely. And I can see, again, you've got all these students, you've got faculty members, staff members. I can see those two new colleges, the veterinary and the dental, really leading to a lot more residential, and then it all feeds on itself again as far as restaurants, stores, and all. I mean, I'm really hopeful that those schools will lead, as we look right over from where we're taping here to Main Street, the Donaghy building and the Boyle building being redeveloped for residential. I mean, our two tallest buildings on Main Street are empty right now, Ben, and you can't declare you're a great Main Street when your two tallest buildings on that street are empty.
It's just not the message that you want to send to small business or to people that want to invest, or like big businesses. I mean, small businesses lead to big businesses.
Yep, they do.
I mean, we decided that we didn't want FedEx a handful of decades ago, and that hasn't really worked out for us. Let's not do that again. Let's make this so attractive to small companies that the big ones come, and then things really start to change.
Yeah.
Because I want all of this to lead to a greater Little Rock. I want better schools. I love Little Rock. I almost left after I left Yellow Rocket just because I love Colorado, and I had an interesting opportunity there. But it really came down to my wife's and my love of Little Rock and our family, and investing in this town is really easy for me.
Yeah, well, I'm bullish on the future of the city, and bullish on the future of downtown too, because of entrepreneurs like you, and like you say, success kind of begets success.
100%.
As more of these come along, I mean, the block we're talking about, you going into the former Soulfish location, I mean, as recently as a decade ago, that block was empty. You're now going to be one of 7 restaurants, Ben, on that one block. That block's a real success story.
You know, I was talking about this with a friend last week. I ate at Mockingbird.
On South Main.
And then the next day I ate at El Sur. First time for both of those.
Like Mockingbird, I hadn't been to El Sur yet. I've heard good things. Honduran food, right?
Astonishingly good.
Yeah.
But both of them were exceptional. What I've realized is that Main Street, without question, is now the best food street in the city. Mm-hmm. Might be in the state.
Yeah.
You think about the quality of restaurants for 8 total blocks.
Yeah.
I mean, and truly, the real talent is South Main.
Down south, yeah.
I mean,
take the street from the State House Convention Center all the way down to Broadway, though, and you got a lot of great restaurants.
When you're bookended by Community Bakery, a institution in this town, and the Root.
Yep.
And then in between you have El Sur, you have Reduno, which you can't get in.
Yeah.
I tried to eat there 4 times in the last month and literally can't get in.
Yeah.
You have El Sur, which you have go there for lunch that day.
Okay.
Mockingbird is putting out some just tremendous food. They're actually transitioning to The Bird. Actually, I don't want to speak for Johnny, but I should start calling it The Bird to help them with that mission, I think.
Okay, The Bird.
And I was really sad that Don chose to close South on Main, but the timing of that deal was so bad. I mean, he took that over and 2 weeks later, the world ended.
Yeah.
In terms of COVID.
Oh, yeah. What timing?
But I've heard rumors that somebody's taking that space and going to do something pretty spectacular. My fingers are crossed because
what Talking about the South on Main space. Oh, wow. Fingers crossed.
Because what Matt Bell did there for years was really special.
I felt a real connection to that. I was I was chairman of the Oxford American Board of Directors when we made that partnership and opened that.
I did not know that.
Yeah, felt a real connection. So I would love to see another good restaurant go into that space.
Absolutely, it's a really big space, and but you could do a million different things in that space. The kitchen is giant, and the space it's a really big space. You have a stage if you want it. I mean, there's. I do not know any inside information. I wish I did, but all I've heard is somebody that has some pretty good ideas. So fingers crossed. Moving out a little larger before we wrap up, just because we're talking about it, you mentioned your partnership with the Keats, and I know most of our listeners have probably read about getting away from downtown, what they're doing with Breckenridge Village, which is really exciting to me, especially us old timers who go all the way back to John Barleycorn's vision, Absolutely. Well, it's a true center.
When that was the place to go, Breckenridge Village. That's exciting, but I always say this. I want to talk to somebody in the profession to see if what I say is right, but I say this town is really blessed. You're not going to find many cities of 200,000 people with a food scene like Little Rock's got. Am I right when I say that?
100% right. The thing that concerns me, you're absolutely right, but what does concern me right now and for the last decade is that a lot of the young talent is leaving. And that is concerning because, I'm 46, Scott McGee is 54, Chris Tanner is 55. What I'm getting at is that we're middle-aged people.
Yeah.
We need some heavy-hitting 25-year-olds.
In their 20s,
and we need to invest
30s,
in them. And that is really interesting to me and Tommy, is giving opportunity like Scott gave me and like Jim gave him, like his father gave him, and tie them to Little Rock.
Yeah.
Say, how about this? Imagine being a conduit for a young, talented person who I didn't have the money to open Local Lime. I took out 4 new credit cards, maxed them all out, and took advantage of the 0% APR for the first year, and then had to figure out how to pay it off at the end of the year. I had a second and a small third on my home. They don't even do thirds anymore.
Yeah.
I leveraged my entire life to get the first Local Lime open, and I never left. I was in there from 6 a.m. until midnight every night. But when you're hungry and you have everything on the line, it's amazing what you can accomplish. And what Scott and John and I did at Local Lime was really special, but it was not easy. I want to try and hang on to those young, talented guys by providing them with a space. So you have a big Breckenridge space, for instance.
Yeah.
Let's partner with them. Let's give them the opportunity to, because banks don't talk to people like to 25-year-old
I understand.
They do not talk to us.
I worked in banking for a while. I understand.
And the restaurant business is enough of a crapshoot anyways. When you're trying to fit some 25-year-old knucklehead who's been in Oaxaca for the last 6 months, they're not going to do it. So somebody does. And what Alice Walton and a couple other people in Northwest Arkansas, you know what they did? All right, we'll just build your restaurant. Just do it here.
Yeah.
And now...
Well, Tom and Stuart, Jim Walton's sons, with Rope Swing.
That's exactly right.
Exactly. They're saying, we're going to let your creative juices flow because we think it's good to bring high-quality people into this part of the state.
But they're also buying all the land.
Yeah.
So it's a good investment already. And then they cultivate a relationship with a young person who puts my favorite restaurant in the state is Bar Cleta in Bentonville. I just absolutely love that restaurant. And Trey and Wheezy, two exceptionally talented, crazy talented individuals, but they didn't have any money.
Yeah.
Somebody helped them get
Somebody
a space.
Invested in them. And that's what we've got to do in Little Rock.
And that's what we have to do here.
Yeah.
If we don't want that young talent to leave.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Well, if it makes you feel any better, that young talent thing goes across a lot of a lot of businesses. I love my fellow columnists, John Brummett, Philip Martin, but all three of us are in our 60s. Think about it.
Yeah, exactly.
Luckily, writing doesn't take that much physical exertion. We hadn't totally lost our minds yet, but we got a pretty old stable of columnists here. So
it's developing young talent is what Scott McGee was. He taught me a lion's share of everything I know in this business, and he is.
Scott's great.
He is absolutely my mentor.
Yep.
The best thing that I learned from him was cultivating young talent. He surrounded himself constantly with young, hungry, hardworking people, and it showed. And now John Beachboard, who started at Boulevard right before me,
right,
is his partner in everything.
Yeah,
and I was his partner in Heights Taco and Tamale and 2 local limes, and
right.
And so what JTJ, what Tommy and Jim and Jake are spearheading in Breckenridge. Mm-hmm. It's going to be a really neat thing. The DeLucas project, I'm super excited about.
Me too.
I'm actually heading up to work with Tony today on a few things because he's about to open his new store, which is next door to his old store.
Yeah.
And so we've taken some of the.
I've wanted to have Tony Valinotti, who's the DeLucas man in Hot Springs. I wanted to have him on this show. But I don't think I could keep him in a chair for 30 minutes. So you know how that is. He's a friend, so I can say that.
No. You're he is exceptional in this capacity.
Yeah.
He's the most interesting man in the world.
Oh, he really is.
Without question.
And has fallen in love with this New Yorker who came here from Las Vegas and falls in love with Arkansas. It's a great story.
Everything about it is he's a cartoon character.
Yeah.
And that energy, I swore up and down it was always drugs. It's not drugs. It is just him.
A natural eye.
He just operates on a different bandwidth, and it resonates in his food. He is not a trained chef. He just knows what he wanted, and he bird dogged it for decades until he got there.
Yeah.
And now, in my opinion, he makes the best pizza in the world.
Yeah, I'm right there with you.
Second best. The best is in Brooklyn. But,
okay. He's up there though.
DeFora in Brooklyn for me, and then DeLucas.
And he's got a pretty good cheeseburger too.
Oh hell, it's amazing.
Oh,
he's a cartoon. It doesn't make any sense. So let me get this straight. You got to go to Hot Springs, Arkansas, to get the best pizza and the best burger, and it's in the same place.
Yeah, at the same place downtown.
Cool.
Yeah,
whatever.
Yeah, absolutely. Ben, thank you for investing as you do in your hometown of Little Rock, and especially thanks for coming down and investing in us downtown.
The work that you do is so appreciated, Rex.
Yeah.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Ben Brainard, our guest today. Thank you for listening to another edition of the Southern Fried Podcast, a production of the Arkansas Democrat Gazette.